everyone. This is another game with one of my friendly viewers. And once again, I must advertise this. If you want to play against me, I am more than happy to entertain a game with you. Just drop me a private message when I'm online and we'll be good to go in no time. Alright, so now I'm playing. We are both experimenting with certain cards from the latest data pack, Up and Over. So I'm playing Replicating Perfection and he's playing Kate. This Replicating Perfection deck includes Mamba and Universal Connectivity Fee, the latter of which is pretty useless most of the time because I don't have any tagging mechanism whatsoever, but it will punish runners who play Account Siphon or anything that gives them tags. I open with 2 eyes, and they are both the best eyes in the game, Eli 1.0. I'm keeping this hand even though there's no economy, even though there's an agenda, even though there is a snare that I cannot afford to trigger. It's fine. I'm keeping this hand because Eli is just too good. No question about that. So, I get by the first turn pretty safely because he does not run my central servers, so I'm not forced to rest the Eli at all. Because he doesn't run my central servers, I decide to play encrypted login protocol. So this should really slow him down and deter him from face checking. This is the weakest part of Replicating Perfection, getting past the early game, because economy is low, especially if you don't start with hedge fund or celebrity gift. I hope that my enhanced login protocol will deter him from running my centrals, which means that I won't have to spend money raising ice, which means that I can skate by basically, with less money to my name. So I draw it with Jackson because he doesn't run my Jackson, and then I draw into a hedge fund which I immediately play, trashing both Fetal AI and NAPD contract. Now, he does a very, very sneaky thing. He plays Sneak Door Beta. Ooh. Uh-oh. And the very first card he accesses is a Future Perfect. Thankfully, I won the side game, even though it cost me 1 credit. This is crucial because I cannot let him score 3 points and trash my enhanced login protocol right off the bat. The second run, he hits the snare, and I lose lots of credits, but at least that really slows him down. He's forced to clear the tag because he has professional contacts online. I told him he should count himself very, very lucky that he didn't hit the snare on his 4th click. Otherwise, he would be in a lot of trouble if I can trash his prof contacts. So, my Jackson draws into a celebrity gift. I don't hesitate to trigger it because this brings me into a very healthy credit range, and I dispose the Future Perfect on my way out, ready to be trashed with Jackson. Now, here's the problem. Because he is running Sneedor Beta, it completely bypasses not only my HQ eyes, but also my enhanced login protocol as well. That is bad. To make things worse, he just trashed one of my other Jackson Howards. Very annoying. I need to stop him from gaining free access to my archives, so I power draw with Jackson. Thankfully, it doesn't trash my Jackson because it allows me to draw deep into my deck to find my 3rd piece of ice, in Tsurugi. And I have enough money to res the Tsurugi, so this should be good. He doesn't run. Fantastic. I can focus on solidifying my economy. I install 2 more econ cards, which are basically medical thing. Mental health clinic, yes. He attempts to sneak down me, and I show him the Tsurugi. Now, at this point, I am very wary of letting him through, because if he accesses the Future Perfect, he can mill it into archives, which is what I definitely do not want. So I'm forced to make him bounce off. I would much rather hit him for 3 net damage, but I do not want him to trash anything from my hand. All the cards in my hand are way too valuable for him to trash. So I leave it as that, and as a result, I lose 2 cards, 2 remote servers, because he starts trashing everything with Imp and his credits. He has a decent number of credits, which is worrying me. Now I interns the Jackson Howard because there are 4 agendas in archives. I cannot afford to let him run normally and score agendas as a result. Remember, my entire goal of my deck is to keep enhanced login protocol on the table for as long as possible. This will deter him from making normal runs on HQ or R&D, and it also makes checking my remotes particularly painful. Yes, and if you notice, all my agendas are very hard to steal. Most other RP decks run 3 copies of Nisei, the agenda. I dropped that in favor of the taxing agendas. We have Fetal AI, Future Perfect, and NAPD, all of which require a cost to steal. So this should hopefully give my deck make it very, very difficult for the runner to steal anything, which means that Enhanced Login Protocol will stay on the table for as long as possible. Even though he can sneak door past it, it is still very difficult for him to achieve much else. And indeed, instead of running my servers, he goes to build up his rig instead by playing 3 rabbit holes and an underworld context. Wow. That was a very nice play by him. Now he's going to get drip economy faster than me. I need to keep up the sundews and the mental health clinic. So I continue icing up my centrals, worrying about blind maker's eye or indexing or legwork. In the meantime, I rest the sundew, pressuring him to run it. If he doesn't run it, my economy will go out of hand. We'll see what he does. Alright. Meanwhile, we have a little talk about the new remote servers and whether he should activate Astrolabe or not. I think he activated it on mistake when I installed the sundew. But no worries, the game goes on. Now, if you notice, he has 4 link. Thanks to the 3 rabbit holes, this makes Ash absolutely worthless. It's only going to tax me because it costs 2 to rest. So Ash suddenly becomes a dead card. Those 4 influence I spent on the 2 copies of Ash are now worthless. Very, very unfortunate situation. Alright, I draw into a Lotus Field. I really want to reserve this for the remote, and so I do. This does come at a cost of protecting my archives. I definitely want to protect archives this game due to Sneak Door, but also because there are lots of agendas in there right now. Meanwhile, he trades one of the rabbit holes in for an R&D interface that gets into his hand, which is a very powerful play. This is one of the best ways to use trade-in, to install 3 hardware in the span of a single click using rabbit hole, and then trading them in slowly for interfaces. That is a very powerful combo, and it's actually pretty reliable because if you draw any of your 3 rabbit holes, you can install all of them. And as long as you draw a trade-in, that means you get a free tutor. It's not free, but you basically get to tutor your interfaces, which are normally not tutorable. Which is very important because for HQ interface, you don't want to run multiple copies. 1 or 2 is more than sufficient. So right now he's doing a very good job. He has his rig set up. He's not running me, but he doesn't have to. I'm not placing any pressure in terms of agendas. So right now I'm forced to do so. I trash my sundew and set up my scoring remote. With 22 credits, I should have enough credits to last me through the rest of the game, along with the mental health clinic. So yes, I'm pressuring him to run right now. If he doesn't run, he's going to let me score 3 agenda points, and he knows that. I showed him the Future Perfect with Celebrity Gift. Will he contest it? He test runs Fatale, of course. And he fems the innermost piece of ice, protecting my remote. But then he quickly realizes that because of Enhanced Login Protocol, he doesn't have the time to challenge my remote. He is able to to bypass the double-click restriction through using single beta, but if he wants to run my remote server, he needs to spend all his remaining clicks. And he doesn't want to do that because he knows there's a Caprice there, and he knows that he wants to scavenge the Femme Fatale. So if he runs and is unsuccessful, he will have no clicks left to scavenge. So knowing that he cannot get through, he ditches the idea and instead scavenges the Femme somewhere else, which is the wise thing to do. Yes, he did. This was a very good move by him. He knows when to cut his losses. Even though he wasted a click but sneak dooring my archives for nothing, at least he cut his losses there. And now the Femme is on a much more useful piece of ice. The innermost piece of ice is an Eli. It will be pretty cheap to get through, which is good for him. And he appropriately runs R&D. Okay, so he spends 2 clicks because of Enhanced Login Protocol, and he brings out Guardian Blade to deal with my Yagura. He clears his other 2 clicks, and gets through Eli instead of femming it, using his money to fem it. So before he accesses, I shuffle 3 cards back in, including a snare, so to reduce the agenda density in there. But he still manages to find a Fetal AI, and that removes my Enhanced Login Protocol as a result. There are still 3 agendas in my archives, but I'm okay because I still have the Jackson Howard that is lying on the table, and 1 more in hand to boot. Now I install the Sundew, forcing him to run again, and then playing another Enhanced Logging Protocol. We'll see if he can afford to make the runs this time. Yes, Enhanced Logging Protocol really puts the pressure on the runner. Do they really want to run? So he sneak doors on archives first and pays 2 credits. This is the amount of tax that Enhanced Logging Protocol is placing on him. Even though he is not even though he is not suffering the click penalty from Enhanced Logging Protocol, he is still forced to make suboptimal plays like paying 2 credits just to avoid Yagura. Yep, that is a victory for me. The very fact that he had to do that just to get to my Sundew. In the meantime, I attempt to score an NAPD. Alright. So, remember, Enhanced Logging Protocol is still on the field. He's going to have a very hard time sieging my central server. My remote server. So, he definitely wants to get rid of the Caprice Nisei that he knows is on my remote. But he's going to have a hard time. I still have 13 credits, and it is at this point that I believe I make a grave mistake. I decided to rest the Mamba lying on R&D. I was hoping to deter him from running R&D by doing so, but by doing so, well, I get to do 1 net damage, and I get to play the side game because he definitely isn't going to pump Fem up to break this Mamba. It will cost him 6 credits, which is way too expensive. So I end up playing the side game, and when I spend my side credits, I quickly realized that I didn't have enough money to sustain my remote server. Caprice costs 2 to res, and the other ice in the remote pretty expensive. So he doesn't find anything on R&D, but now he still has clicks left to siege my remote, and that he does. I'm looking at my ice. I cannot rest the innermost Mamba. I can rest the Lotus Field, but that's pretty useless because it won't stop him, and I won't have any credits left to play the side game. So I basically cornered myself into only one solution: resing the Caprice naked and hope that I win the side game. Nope, not today. So he steals the NAPD and trashes my Caprice. This was the turning point of the game. From here on out, it gets really difficult for me as he trashed my Enhanced Logging Protocol, my second one. That hurt. Well, and now I'm poor again. So thankfully I drew into my second hedge fund, allowing me to have a decent, respectable number of credits. And because I rest the Mamba earlier on R&D, it now makes his central runs, it's impossible for him to run through my R&D until he gets better icebreakers up. In the meantime, I'm looking at his board state. He has 2 Underworld contacts and a daily cast. He's getting 4 clickless credits every turn, and me, I'm only getting 1 from Mental Health Clinic. This won't do. So I know that if I drag the game out, I'm going to lose, just by him having way more credits than me. So here I'm forced to make the decision to throw the NAPD into the remote server, even though I can barely protect it. This is definitely a suboptimal play, and as I ended my turn, I was really regretting my decision to do this. Why am I putting the NAPD in the server which I cannot protect? This is ridiculous. He can easily run through it. He just needs to spend his first 2 clicks, and then he can bounce off the he can click through the Eli that's sitting on top of my remote. Well, he decides to trade his rabbit hole in for another iron interface. It's pretty clear at this point where his point of attack is, and I'm not very happy about it. But at least he gives me the opportunity to score my NAPD, so I don't take it for granted. I immediately score it. So now I'm on match point, 2 more agenda points to win. That was definitely very lucky that he didn't attempt to contest my remote server, not knowing that the ice there were too expensive for me to res in general. So he scavenges the fam onto Mamba and makes a run on R&D. A dirty laundry run at that. Well, can't stop him now. it cost me 6 credits to rest the Mamba. If it was a Tsurugi, he would have to pay 4 credits to get through, but now he only has to pay 2. And then he breaks through the other 2 pieces of ice with impunity. And I used my Jackson Howard to shuffle in 3 non-agendas so that my agenda density will be diluted. I remember I have 1 more Jackson in my hand, so I can afford to install it the next turn to reshuffle my last 3 agendas in. But he pulls the last 2 agendas from my deck to win the game. Yes, those were the last 2 agendas in my deck. If you count up the... Yep, look at that. This is what was left in my R&D. There were no more agendas left in R&D. He had to steal both of them to win because he was on 4 agenda points, and those 2 agendas add up to 3. He managed to find both of them, and lucky for him, he won the game there. But it didn't really matter. I think regardless of whether he pulled those agendas or not, I was going to lose the game anyways. It was only going to go uphill from there. It was an uphill battle for me from then on because he was generating way more money than me. And yeah, I was just too poor to rest the ice to keep him out of my servers. The intention of this deck is to completely tax the runner to oblivion. Mamba and Tsurugi are very taxing pieces of ice. Unfortunately, I couldn't beat him to make sufficient number of runs on them. All his runs were very efficient thanks to the interfaces. And the steal, the NAPD steal on my remote was huge because that swung the entire game in his favor. So kudos to him for playing so well, but on the same token, I misplayed it a lot, as I mentioned during the video. My evaluation of the game state was very lacking. By the time I realized I didn't have enough credits, it was too late for me to recover. Speaking of which, at one point I had 22 credits to my name. You would think that's enough. With the expensive taxing ice that I'm running, 22 credits is nowhere near enough, especially since all my agendas cost so many credits to advance. So yeah, economy is a problem for this deck, and my misjudgment only makes it worse. I think I'm very lousy at playing Replicating Perfection in general. I've tried it a few times and I've been a massive failure in all my games. I guess Replicating Perfection just isn't for me. I hate it whether I'm playing it or against it. Oh well, that's life. Thanks for watching and happy net running. Goodbye.